First and Now, the official BC Lions podcast, transmitting from the Go-Goat Sports Studios. We're at the Wall Center downtown. Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski. It's, tell you what, Coach Campbell said it today before the team broke it down after practice, Nick. It's hot. It's going to be hot on Saturday, so we might as well practice hot. Summer, it is summer, but one of those first days driving down here in a while where we really felt, we're in the heart of the summer. The games are getting more important. This is pretty awesome, bud.
Yeah, and I decided to wear some gray long pants today, and I was feeling it out there at practice today. Even I was talking to our trainer, Andrew. He's always wearing a black jacket, like a full-sleeve black jacket. And I'm like, how are you not just dying out there right now? And he told me that the sun kind of reflects off of him. So
a lot of the coaches go that way, too. Like, think of like a Mike Benavides, even a Ryan Phillips. He's got like the black long sleeves. We're in Kamloops, May, June. It's 34 degrees at 9 in the morning, and these coaches are out there with their black attire, long sleeves.
Marcus Sales, Alex Hollins, Brian Burnham used to, right? Pants.
Maybe that's part of the training camp thing. Guys want to shed some pounds maybe, or I don't know. But guys like us, well, speaking for myself, I'm always looking to shed the pounds once we get to training camp and account for those big meals that you enjoy. But we are thrilled to be back here. We did a podcast last week on Bye Week, of course. We encourage you to check it out. Bobby Dubois, the Guinness World Record holder. Not every time you get to talk to someone that's going into the Guinness World Record book. 9 stadiums, 15 days, capped it all off with our big win over Montreal. That was a fun episode. We encourage you to check that out. But your BC Lions at 4-1, I'll tell you what, I don't remember a bye week like that, quite like that, where the out-of-town scoreboard went in our favor. Those Ottawa Red Blacks somehow coming up off the mat and winning that game 16 points down late. A pick six, a two-pointer, a Dustin Crum rushing touchdown with no time on the clock, another two-pointer, and then they finished the job in overtime. And Calgary Stampeders coming back to win despite allowing a couple of touchdown returns by Mario Alford. Great results on the out-of-town scoreboard, but this week it's about the Lions and the Rough Riders. First of 3 meetings, and what about this stretch, Nick? We're going to see all 4 division opponents in the next 4 weeks, then a second tilt with Saskatchewan in their place at Mosaic Stadium, August the 20th, I believe that is, a Sunday evening. That'll be fun. Really a chance for this Lions team to continue controlling their own fate here as we approach September in the second half of the season. Crazy to talk about.
Mm-hmm. It feels a lot like last year, too. We had this stretch where we played Calgary, that crazy 41-40 game with the comeback. Then we trounced Edmonton, went into Mosaic twice and got victories there. So it feels a lot like last season where, the start is great and you can't ask for more in these first 5 games that they've played, but now you got to prove it against your own divisional competition, right? And it's going to be no easy games. Even looking ahead to next week, you got Edmonton that's going to be very, very motivated to not allow a streak to become a record, right? And then it's another trip to Winnipeg too. So it's no easy games coming up. 4-1's nice first place, but it doesn't matter until you start beating these divisional teams and even gaining even more ground in the West.
Yeah, nice scheduling, by the way. We're going to be in Edmonton next Saturday. The Bombers are on their bye, and then we get to turn around and go into Winnipeg on the Thursday.
Adversity.
Hey, can only imagine the excuses if it was the other way around and it didn't go another team's way. But we'll worry about the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As mentioned, no one can afford to overlook this Saskatchewan team. Battling injuries, of course, including at the most important position. Very tough news to see Trevor Harris go down and was enjoying some family time in the Okanagan last week. Very lovely. So listened to a good chunk of Edmonton, Hamilton, and then to Ottawa, Winnipeg, and then was kind of following along. I ended up rewatching a good portion of Saskatchewan and Calgary when I got home, but very rough for Trevor Harris to go down. They're doing what we did with Nathan Rourke last year. They're leaving the door open for a late season return, but absolutely no guarantees. Probably internally they're preparing to not have him again this season. But this Lions defense, ferocious as they have been, just 5 touchdowns allowed in 68 possessions offensively by the other team. 19 points only in 2 home games. Very, very impressive. you got to think that they're licking their chops facing Mason Fine, a guy who has minimal experience, Nick. Had one start against Calgary toward the end of last year. I think we saw him in a relief appearance at one point, one of those 3 games, if memory serves correct. But that's definitely a big storyline this week.
Yeah, I got it right in front of me. The unfortunate Nathan Rourke injury game last season, Mason Fine did come in in replace of Cody Fajardo. That was a performance-based decision. That wasn't an injury to Fajardo.
That's right.
Ironically, too, Fine hit Justin McInnes, who's now with the BC Lions, obviously.
Justin had a big game there against,
got in the triple digits for receiving yards in that game. So Mason Fine, he just thrown over 100 passes in his CFL career. Pretty solid numbers in his relief appearances, but it's going up against another animal in Ryan Phillips' secondary and his defense overall, too, with the front. And you mentioned it, too, with the Riders injury report. I'm looking at it right now. They just have their Wednesday injury report in, and none of those guys that missed on Tuesday have practiced again. I'm talking Anthony Lanier, the league's highest paid defensive player. So that's how high the Riders feel of him, and he's not practicing. Roland Milligan, a defensive back's not practicing. Here's an interesting one, too. Brett Lothar has not practiced this week.
Saw that,
with a leg injury, so that's their kicker, obviously. So that's another interesting situation. And then Micah Johnson, non-football related, was out today. Pete Robertson was the one guy he was full today, so expect him to be playing on the edge.
Yeah, he had a big year for them last year, and it's interesting you mentioned that August game in Mosaic. The last quarter and a bit for me that night is just all a blur.
It wasn't a good feeling, yeah.
Because, take people kind of inside the den. I mean, as the club's media contact, I am that first point. So when any player gets injured, I'm the one. I'm saddling up to the doctors and the trainers, and you just kind of knew this one was not going to be good. And I was it's disbelief, it's potential heartbreak, knowing how serious this ended up being. That, this is the story of the CFL, and we're likely going to be without him for a long time, potentially. So it was a combination of kind of falling into that trance and then having to stay on the trainers and the doctors for the updates, right? Which we didn't really have none other than he wasn't going to return to the game. You get the Farhans in the world texting you.
Everyone in
God
Canadian
love them.
media
Yeah, everyone. I don't recall my phone blowing up in this job anyway. But so you mentioned that, and now you mentioned that, I kind of vaguely remember Mason Fine coming in, but that's just kind of take people down memory lane to how crazy of a night that was. Because remember what else happened that day? The bus didn't show up to the hotel. Remember that?
I do remember that.
It showed up eventually, like Tyler Gammon, our football ops manager, and basically the go-to guy when it comes to arranging the road trips and everything, and on the phone. And you know what I remember too? The Grey Cup was there. The trophy was there. It might have been Saskatchewan's Purelator Tackle Hunger game or something. So we're all kind of standing out on the lobby, or out front the lobby, the front steps of the Hotel Saskatchewan, like, where the hell's the bus? Rick Campbell and a couple other coaches just said, screw it, we're walking. Because you can walk there in about 15, 20 minutes maybe to Mosaic Stadium. And we're waiting. We're kind of starting to get a little antsy, like, what the hell's going on here? Or the Riders, or someone playing tricks on us here. And then Tom Chambers, the keeper of the Grey Cup, comes out. He's got the trophy in his little case. He's pulling it, and no one wants to acknowledge that the Grey Cup's there, right? Because at this time, the team was 7-1, went to 8-1 that night, I think it was. Something like that. So things were going good, and say, okay, well, but we're not there yet. Like, the Grey Cup's there. We're not there yet. That, to me, is another big memory from that
I vaguely
night.
remember that, too. I have a video, actually, of us waiting out front there's literally a combine going down the street.
Yeah.
I have a video of that. That's my memory from waiting.
And then you had Luches Purifoy with the Pennywise doll. Just
hanging out.
Yeah. So you kind of got the sense, okay, maybe something weird's going to happen tonight. And sure enough, it did. But we know Nathan Rourke came back, led us to a big playoff victory, nearly led us to another one in Winnipeg, despite not being 100% at all with his foot. And we wish him all the best with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, yeah, the quarterback situation, you met Peter Godber, another guy, former Lion, likely not going to face his old friends this week. He's been injured, not practicing this week. But depth is key in this league, as we've found out, and I would not expect Saskatchewan to be using those as an excuse if they're missing a couple of receivers and one or two key guys on defense, as well as the offensive line. One guy who I hope and think is due to break out something big here, Terry Williams.
Yeah.
Before we hear from Terry, what are your thoughts on how he's performed this year? I look forward to hearing from him.
He's consistent as always in the return game, right? Unfortunately, he still hasn't broken one for, knock on wood, hasn't broken one yet for a major yet. But you know what you're getting with Terry. It's always going to be a steady, positive return. He runs north south, which is good instead of east west, which you hear about with a lot of returners.
Yeah,
Special teams coordinators will criticize for returners, but yeah, Terry's been a spark. Especially, like, I think back to that Winnipeg game where he had, 300 return yards. I think he's still up there in terms of...
the October 15th game last year.
Yeah. Even
the gunmetal game.
Even the home opener this year, it was kind of a tug-of-war back and forth, not much happening, and then there was a big Terry Williams punt return, and that kind of I thought that gave the team a spark in that home opener. So that's what Terry Williams has done really since he's got here, and he's been nothing but, I would say, good for us overall.
Would have been just after that Saskatchewan game we're talking about last year, maybe a week or two later when we made the trade for Scary Terry. Number one in the league, averaging 23 yards per kickoff return.
Yeah, so there.
I was just kind of looking at the stats pack the other day. So Terry Williams, we'll talk football. We'll talk about his frat history, perhaps. He's got a cool background. One of the great characters on this Lions team. Terry Williams is also, he's had some reps at receiver, like you were saying, too. So we'll talk with Terry coming up. And we've tracked down the man, Terry Williams, the speedster for your BC Lions. We hit on it going into the break there, leading the Canadian Football League with an average of 23 yards per kickoff return. We get the sense he's going to break one out, a long one here sooner rather than later. But Terry Williams is with us now on First and Now. Terry, sir, how are you?
I'm good.
So we are 3 days into preparations for Saskatchewan. First off, though, backtrack a bit. How was your bye week? Did you stay local? Did you go home? What'd you do?
Oh, I stay here. Just enjoy Vancouver, enjoy Siri. For the week, just kept to myself. Downtime, got my body right, mind right, excited.
What sort of sights and sounds did you check out?
I went down the waterfront. Just looked at it. Just enjoyed that. I never been down that way, all the way down. So I went down and seen that. That's a great view.
Yeah, West Coast. You're from the South, obviously, but obviously a little different from where you're used to. How much do you love it here so far?
I love it here. It's a great place to be. Like, it's a lot of sightseeing, a lot of you can see the mountains, the water, great buildings, great people. So it's just a lot to do on your downtime, or great fans like during the game, after the game. Just a lot to do here.
What you, of course, you were a member of the Ottawa Red Blacks for a couple of years before coming over, but what have you learned? You mentioned the fans. How much have you learned about just how much of a deep appreciation the fans have for this league and for their favorite teams?
Like the fans, I say the fans in the CFL, you'll really find out how much they really care. Like, they'll know your name. They'll be screaming your name with your jersey number on, and they'll just come up to you and say your stats, just say what kind of game you had. Just, it'd be crazy, the amount of love that they show. Each fan base, they show love, and it's you wouldn't realize that looking in, but as a player, getting to know fans, they come up to you while you out to eat. They know your face, they know, and they just sit and talk to you, enjoy yourself, enjoy the vibe.
And Terry, you're obviously someone who came here mid-season last year via trade, so that means you weren't here for last year's home opener, but you obviously played in this year's home opener. You got another 4:00 game under your belt at BC Place this season. I mean, you've been to Winnipeg in the snow too, so I feel like you've kind of done the whole CFL trifecta when it comes to weather. But I'm guessing now is these 4:00 summer hot games. That's what you prefer, I'm guessing, when it comes to playing.
Oh yeah, I love the heat. I'm from down south, Mississippi. I like the heat. I got to get used to the cold though. I got to get used to it. Buy me a thicker coat, but I love the heat. The 4:00 games, I love them.
What has the experience been like at BC Place for you now? Because obviously you got that home opener, like we just said off the top there, in week 2 against Edmonton. You also played last week against Montreal. Like, what are your thoughts on just playing at BC Place overall, and then the increase in fans that we're seeing?
Oh, it's electric. Like every home game I come to, is like more. Like you looking at things like more fans. Like wow, it get louder and louder, and it stays that way for the whole 4 quarters. Like it's energy, like all around. It's just crazy, and it's always a good show. I always have a good show.
I guess we haven't really talked to many players, at least on air, about this too. But the 30-minute LL Cool J concert, you guys are just sitting there in the locker room. Like, could you hear that loud and clear? Could you hear LL performing?
I felt a little bit. I was like locked in, to be honest with you, but it was I can hear him. It was I have to say he had a good performance.
You're someone too. I would say, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you have a lot of pregame rituals. Like I believe you and Lucky walk out together pregame warm up. We actually have this unspoken kind of ritual that we do. Hey, after the first team comes out, or the second team comes out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. That's definitely a ritual. The scream at the end of the tunnel, when everybody come out. Oh yeah, that's for sure.
I
But
guess.
I feel like at being an athlete, you come into your own rituals or your own things that get you going for the game. So I think I haven't really noticed mine, but since you said it, they come to the front of my mind.
Yeah, I guess I never even talked to our digital team about this, but Terry and I, like, we did not speak about this. We didn't plan it or nothing like that. But after the second team comes out, I'm always behind the last person. And last year it was Fig. Now this year it's usually Menard, or it's been like Betts sometimes. But the last person that comes out, I'm always behind them. And Terry comes up to me, screams at my camera, and then runs away. We didn't plan it at all, but it happens every game now.
Got to stick with a winning formula. I like hearing about that. Terry, let's backtrack a little bit. One of our interns, Evan Tate, around training camp spoke with you for a great piece at bclions.com. And you were talking in that story about how you didn't receive any major offers in the NCAA at first, and you have to start at Itawamba College, and you leave that school as the all-time leader in receiving yards, and you parlay that in some good times at Tennessee Martin. Um, what was that process like? I mean, did you have to go in there with a chip on your shoulder at first?
I'll say I always had a chip on my shoulder. I still do. That'll never go away. But I always play with a chip on my shoulder. Come as you being small, everybody, they count you out or they say something like, "Oh, you too small, you too this, you too that." So I always use that to use that to get me, not get me going, but like, okay, let me show you. But yeah, I always had a chip on my shoulder everywhere I went. I always, wanted to tell myself I am the best. I want to be the best, so I gotta show it every day. Practice, game, meetings, just show it.
You also talked in that article about the influence of your mother, Angular Robinson. Just talk about her and everything she's done for you to help you get to this point.
Oh yeah, she means the world to me. She did a lot. Just going and putting like 2 3 jobs, then also being at every game, giving me pairs of cleats. Signing me up for little league football, taking me to every getting me ready for practice when she was just being everything at once. Like I said, I never have enough thank yous to tell her or enough time to thank her. But I love my mom to death. She did everything and some. Even when we have it all. But she always did that for me, and I thank my mom. She definitely gave me my work ethic, my hard work ethic. I learned that from her. Never complain about it, just get it done.
That's great to hear. Has she been up here yet, or does she have plans to come to a game?
She haven't been up here yet, but she has planned to come to the game for sure. She's coming.
Which game's that?
It'll be in November, one of the games in November,
Awesome.
so she can feel that cold weather.
Heck yes. Yeah, I like that.
And then Terry, just being on your social media, seeing your captions and all for your posts and whatnot, but you're someone who always uses the phrase "big dreamer." I imagine that comes from your work ethic and growing up and never counting yourself out. But where did the actual phrase "big dreamer" come from? Is that something you just thought of top of your head, or where did you come up with that?
Like I say, coming out of high school, I always had a dream of like playing Division 1 football. You know, being one of the best, athletes or receivers. I say receivers, going playing for pro football, playing NFL. I always had those dreams, and like when I got to college, I was like UT Martin. That's when I really put it together. Like big dream, like it just came to me one day. I was like big dream, and it just stuck with me since then. And I always tell everybody like you're never too your dream never too big. So don't try to small it down or shorten it or tell people your dream and let them kill it. So don't it's never too big. You can never dream too big.
You get a lot of support too from your receiver cast too that you're a part of too. I think people forget that you're definitely a capable receiver too. We've seen you play in Calgary in week 1. They're getting some catches, but this receiving core, I mean, I think it's pretty well documented how fun it is and how much fun you guys have on a day in day out basis. But just talk about that the receiver room you guys have and all the fun you guys have.
Oh yeah, I say the receiver room is a great receiver room to be in. You're like any receiver would love to be in this room, like because of the camaraderie, and like the energy and the work ethic. Like we have fun, but we also go and work real hard. Like go to practice, go put in the work, go in the game, big on short in the game, and we celebrate with each other. Like somebody make a play, everybody happy for them. Another person make a play, everybody happy for you. So it's a great place to be.
You're also someone too that you're with receivers 24/7, and by that I mean you're staying with Alex Hollins and Josh Pearson this year, right?
It's the down south guys, Josh from Alabama, so the down south crew.
So I imagine you guys have some smiles and some dancing. I imagine from time to time.
Yeah, smiles, dancing, singing, old blues songs, and great energy, great time.
You got to get a GoPro in there when you guys are all home or something, Terry. Hey, before we let you go, one quick one. Big divisional opportunity here again with Saskatchewan in town. You're watching the film, you're preparing from a special teams perspective, I suppose, Terry. What do you have to look out for here?
I just say as a special team, as our group, special team, all phases, we just putting it together in practice and just want to show how hard we put in the practice, just going short in the game. Just everybody be on one page, everybody, just coming together. It's showing, so we just want to show it to our fans on Saturday at 4:00. So it's gonna be a good day.
All right, sir. This has been fun. We'll have to do it again sometime, and yeah, we'll be watching with anticipation, getting some big chunk yards here. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
See you later, Terry.
Excellent stuff with Terry Williams, and yeah, you're the weather guy today. You're a meteorologist today, or something. It's hot out today. What do you think of the heat outside? What are we expecting tonight? What's the low temperature today?
I wish it was a little colder. I'm not a big heat guy.
No, yeah. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Being a fellow prairie boy.
But you're right. You go back to those October. Well, it's funny. We had a nice October last year, right? Like it was
no rain.
It was dry. It was sunny. It was warm a lot of the days at practice. But you're right. A couple of those home games. We're one of the first people in there. There's no fans in there yet. There's no one in there. There's not many warm bodies around. Yeah, you got to bundle up with the roof closed even. That's a good point. But love Terry Williams and been a welcome addition to this team.
I got to take this back too. We said Terry hasn't had that big one yet. The West Final last year. 100 and
only convert return to the end zone in playoff history.
And that made it, and at the end there, that play doesn't happen. It's not a one-score game with us driving down, so that was a massive play. So that was a big one. Terry has that big moment.
Yeah. It's funny, you look at the stats, it's all regular season stats, right? So kind of by default, it makes that not part of the equation. But yeah, you're right. So obviously it wasn't a touchdown. It went for 2 points.
I want to say that's the right rule.
Absolutely it is.
I saw people saying that should be worth
Well,
touchdown.
remember, like, speaking of when we get text messages and stuff during the game, like, we had coworkers texting our group text, that should be a touchdown. Why isn't that a touchdown? It's like, because it's not a...
The offense can't get a touchdown.
The defense wasn't out there. It was the field goal protection.
And the offense can score a max of 2 points on that play.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense. That's how it makes sense.
Right. That people just don't understand it. But yeah, excellent stuff with Terry, and you like stories like that. Guys who don't get offers in college, and we didn't have time to get into it, but he had some frat house history. But guys who don't get the college offers, but they end up making something out of their professional football careers. Excellent. You admire that guy for his determination in carving out a career for himself. We're gonna talk about some of the other games this week, 3 other games. But first, Nick, we want to give a player on each side, a player each for the Lions here, who may not be getting talked about, but we think you should watch out for. Who do you have against Saskatchewan?
I think you got to go Jalen Edwards-Cooper. Got to get the encore performance. He's been practicing full all week, so the rib injury was not a scare. So he's back healthy. But I mean, through these 5 games, I thought he had maybe one of the games of his life. I'm sure on Sunday against Montreal, the block punt going right into his hands in stride. You can't ask for more. And then he's breaking up hitch routes and for tackles for a loss. And I think he's been really stellar too on just closing on balls all season. And Gary Peters, TJ Lee, even Marcus Sales, they're obviously the Sales and Peters being the all-stars in that secondary last year. They get a lot of the credit, a lot of the attention, but Jalen's really earned his way into that starting lineup, earned his spot to keep that spot in the starting lineup, and he's ran with it. He's been stellar, I think, all year, and you can tell. I think if you watch him this season, he looks a lot more comfortable in his play. It looks a lot like he's kind of reading plays and getting there quicker. We talk about that with like a guy like Matthew Betts, where he knows what's going to happen before it happens. I think Edwards Cooper is getting into that same boat, and it's his 3rd CFL season now, right?
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, part of that group that this brass has brought in, that's developed, and he's been excellent.
I'm going to stay on defense. We talked about it a bit earlier. On the stat sheet, he might not be standing out. Josh Banks.
Oh, yeah.
Another guy in his 3rd year, the night train. Matthew Betts getting to the quarterback, Sione Tuhema on the other end. A lot of what they do is made possible by these guys in the interior, plugging running lanes and providing space, keeping blockers away. The night train, he just quietly does his thing. And that run defense, stopping the run was... Again, we're referencing that West Final in Winnipeg, but if they can contain Brady Oliveira a bit more, then it's potentially a different result. And that has been much improved this year. Although it was funny, that win in Winnipeg started with the Bombers moving the ball quite easily and got held to a field goal. People forget Winnipeg actually led that game, but I'm going Josh Banks. And again, they have a test. Jamal Morrow, very capable back. Still have a couple playmakers on the offense, even with their current injury report. So that's going to be important.
100% with Josh Banks. And you know who is giving Josh Banks love is PFF. Because with their honor roll last month, with they'd one player at each position. And Anthony Lanier, who we mentioned, who's probably not dressing this week for the Riders, also the highest paid defensive player in the CFL. He was graded as the best defensive lineman, and they only named the one person on the entire defensive line. But Josh Banks was not only the highest graded defensive tackle, but also the 2nd highest graded defensive lineman, and I want to say the 3rd highest graded defensive player in the entire CFL. So yeah, where Josh Banks might not show up on the stat sheet, he shows up in a lot of areas that coaches watch and break down and matter to coaches, X's and O's and all that, and stuff like run blocking that maybe not, like you said, won't show up on the stat sheet. So a very valuable member of the defense for sure.
When the stats are working, they don't show up, is what you meant. All right, moving.
PFF's been good.
Moving along. Yeah, PFF's been good, yeah. All right, moving along. Week 7, we're back to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Of course, we had our first doubleheader of the week last week, but no Sunday game. Edmonton 0-6 at Winnipeg. The Bombers, of course, 4-2. Probably still in shock with how things ended in Ottawa on Saturday. We're not complaining. That was a good out-of-town scoreboard, like we hit on off the top. But I don't know, Nick. Do you give Edmonton any sort of fighting chance here? Hey, you know what? Maybe a bit of trolling here by the Bombers. I like this. Winnipeg is wearing their whites. So maybe this part of the design is make Edmonton feel like they have no chance because they're going to be in their home jerseys. It just dawned on me.
That's where I thought you were going with that. Make Edmonton feel like they're at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that saying? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all, anything at all.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of feel about Edmonton, unfortunately, right now. It seems like it's Taylor Cornelius again for them. I mean,
Kenny Lawler's back for Winnipeg, so that's going to give the offense a spark, you would think.
Yep.
So the big question for me is can they protect Zach Collaros? Of course, you saw their overtime possession get snuffed out because of a sack, holding them to a Sergio Castillo field goal. And talk again about the job the Lions defense did there a few weeks ago. But I think Winnipeg's safe here to get back into the win column. But
they're a massive favorite in this one. I saw
15.5, I think I saw.
Yeah.
So
Sergio Castillo too, 13-13 this season. Just throwing that out there.
Toronto Argonauts still the only undefeated team, 4-0. I've had the 2 byes already. That's kind of funny.
2022 BC Lions vibe.
Pretty much. Argos going down the QEW to Tim Hortons Field. Again, I guess the heavier divisional play this is going to happen, but normally used to this on Labor Day as well. We'll get it on Labor Day as well. Hamilton, who they starting at quarterback? Ken Hobart this week?
Taylor Powell. Antonio Pipkin will be dressing.
That flew
too.
right over your head, the Ken Hobart reference.
It did a
Ticats quarterback from the 80s. Lions beat him in the 85
how would I know?
Well, I was only one.
I probably got to get into more CFL history, though. That's one thing.
You should. But anyway, Taylor Powell, Matthew Schultz to the 6th game, Bo Levi Mitchell not quite ready yet. So that ferocious Argos defense has to be licking their chops. I think I'm leaning Argos in this one, Nikki.
Yeah, me too. JB's probably going to get a big workload too, and James Butler I'm talking about in the backfield for Hamilton with the inexperienced quarterback. Antonio Pipkin, like I just mentioned, is going to be dressing for them, so good to see him back in the CFL. And then Kyle Loxley's their backup, wearing number 89. That just it looked bizarre to me last week seeing him on the sideline. But Toronto, I mean, they got to be a sizable favorite in this game. But I mean, it kind of has like that Pittsburgh-Baltimore NFL feel to it, where it's like when these two teams play, like, I mean, one team could be 0-10, one team could be 10-0, and it could come down to the wire. It usually comes down to the last play of the game, just because that's the style these teams play. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Hortons Field and Hamilton gives the Argos a good fight. But yeah, on paper, it should be a Toronto victory, right?
Yep, but the game's not played on paper, but we shall see. And I like that reference, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, similar hatred, similar rivalries. So I'll be tuning in that one Friday night. Of course, Lions Riders Saturday, 4 o'clock. We'll talk before we go about some of the cool events happening, Watermelon Smash, but the week in the CFL ends Sunday, 4 o'clock Pacific. Calgary Stampeders, a huge win for them last week. We talked about this on BC Lions on Tap, our radio program with Glenn Suter and Moj. A Calgary loss last week, and they're all but done, as crazy as that seems, as far as a top 3 position in the West. Because they would have been 1-4. Saskatchewan would be 4-1. The Riders would have wrapped up the tiebreaker with them. And Calgary, of course, already losing once each to us and the Blue Bombers. But we'll see if Jake Mayer can build off his solid performance. Not sure I'm ready to crown the Red Blacks just yet. It was an impressive comeback. I think Calgary's going to get this done, Nick.
I'm with you too there.
So we're agreeing on all 3 of these, but that's fine.
So you got the Lions?
Yeah.
I got the Lions too. So we're going
to all 4. Yeah.
But I thought Glenn Suter last night on Tap made a great point in that having Jake Mayer get in that situation where you're down with 40 seconds to go in Regina and you have to come up with a game-winning drive, and he does execute that's got to be huge for him going forward. Mm-hmm. And I imagine he wasn't feeling too confident going into that game too. Great, they're 1-3, not the best start to the season. Could be 1-4 with 2 losses to the Riders, and then Mayer comes back and saves them. Obviously, Rene Paredes caps it off with yet another clutch field goal. But yeah, Calgary, and I thought too on offense, like they kind of came alive with a deep passing game too, which is something that I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see Luther Hakanavanu catching a couple deep balls and a touchdown. Tommy Lee Lewis coming out of nowhere for them. We were talking about they need more weapons at receiver with their injuries, and Tommy Lee Lewis stepped up last week, so I'm sure he's going to be involved on Sunday again. And on the flip side, yeah, we'll see what with Ottawa. It was a good, obviously, 3 minutes and overtime to end their game, but I mean, they were trailing a lot in that game, and they obviously just caught a spark late and with Dustin Crum and his magic with his legs, and well, now you got to do it again, right?
I'm looking forward to seeing how he is going to build off that, and that's good for the league. Having a young, unproven guy come up, be able to do it with his arms and with his feet, and I imagine there'll be a few more eyeballs on that game as a result of what happened last week on both sides of it. Calgary and Ottawa both winning in very, very exciting fashion. All right, we encourage everyone to get to BC Place early Saturday, 11 a.m. Yes, set your alarms. Set your alarms. Don't sleep in too late.
Get the early ferry.
What? Yeah, exactly. BC Lions Island and Interior Express. Don't want to miss this one of all contests to come. 2 tailgate parties. Lions tailgate for fans, Rider fans tailgate. There's going to be watermelon eating contests. There's going to be all kinds of cool food options, $5 Molson Coors products, Fog Dog cover band, great band was at Lions Den in Regina. If you were at that Grey Cup party, they're making the trip out, and it's going to be fun. Watermelon Smash, again, gets going in the backyard party presented by Play Now Sports, 11 o'clock on Terry Fox Plaza. Very much looking forward to checking this out.
Same here, yeah. Really cool idea, too, where the Riders have their own tailgate section. I think that's like an innovative...
We've never done that before in a regular season game.
That kind of has like the NFL experience to it, too, right? I know we went to a game in Seattle in December, and there's 49ers sections, there's 49ers bars even, and parties and all that. So I think it's a great idea to have both teams have their own sections, and we know how well the Rough Riders travel. And then we're also kind of we're poking fun at it, too, with all the watermelon themes and... watermelon White Claws and smashing and all of that. It's gonna be a sunny day too, so it's gonna be a fun one.
There's the weather again. Love it. Yeah, it's gonna be gorgeous. Roof should be open. I'm making that call right now. I have a hunch the roof.
You don't make the call?
Will be open.
I thought you do.
I don't have that much. People think I control it. I have all the power.
You have a button.
I make suggestions only. I don't make decisions. Not everyone listens, but upper bowl seating open. $25 for adults. $10 17 and under youth. You can't beat that as far as sports entertainment in this city. Nikki, this was fun. We thank Terry Williams, Trevor Martins, our producer, hitting switches and conducting things in the Grady Sass producer's booth over there. It's officially the Grady Sass booth. There's a sign there now. So, and speaking of Sakaris and Price, great interview this week with Mike Benavides. Conducted on Tuesday's program. So check that out. Get more of your Lions fix. Subscribe to First and Now wherever you get your podcast. The Lions Audio Network, wherever you get your podcast. Check out BC Lions on tap. As mentioned, we tee it up with Glenn Suter as well. We're doing everything, Nick. Podcasts, radio shows, trailers, Road and 5, recap, you name it.
North Van, Surrey, Vancouver.
Yeah, where are we next week for On Tap? Boston Pizza,
Guilford, yeah.
Yeah, so come on.
Might walk over.
Have a Molson or a Coors Light on us, and we'll have some fun. First and Now, back next week. This is the official BC Lions podcast. Be safe.